Hello, and welcome to Everything But the Scores with Danny Jolles. My name is Danny Jolles. Today is Tuesday, August 16th, 2022. For those of you just tuning in for the first time, this is a podcast about all the stories around sports. If you watch a ton of sports, this is all the things that happen off the field, the interesting athlete stories, the interesting athlete drama, the things that we live for, the things that make it exciting and fun. And while I enjoy what happens on the field, you don't need to know about it to enjoy this podcast. So if you don't watch any sports at all, you'll still enjoy this podcast. I hope that you share it with a friend. Tell somebody. If you told somebody recently that you like this show, it really does help. Word of mouth is the strongest thing we have going for us. That's how we get most of our new listeners. So I'm told. Now, if you're listening to the audio version of this, standard show, but those of you watching this at this point are going, hey, I can't help but notice. He's just rogue. New setup, different look, worse camera. What's going on here? Not joining me today is Noah Kopfer. I wish I could say it was for an interesting reason. I wish I could say it was because we had some sort of big blowout, some exciting fights that I could tell you guys about. Tell you about how he refused to listen to me, but instead he's just on vacation. That's the whole story there. There's no fight. He's a good boy. He's a great guy. And as a result of him not being here, I said to myself, well, I don't even know how I'm going to handle this. So we certainly can't have a guest. So this is a true solo episode. This is the way we used to do it. Those of you who've joined since the revolution, since the video revolution, you might not know that this is how it used to be. Sometimes it was just me talking to you. And that's what it's going to be like this week. But we're going to talk about the issues, talk about some exciting stuff. How have I been? Thanks for asking. Pretty good. Okay. It's a weird time. It's a weird time in this gosh darn LA City. It's also a weird time in sports. Because I can tell you, I mean, I was literally before this, I was like just going through it. I was like, here's what we got going. We got baseball rocking. Mid-season baseball. But the problem with mid-season baseball is it is probably the least exciting thing. Good games, great games being played, exciting stuff. But at this point in the season, everybody's just who they are. People getting called up. That's the only exciting thing happening off the field right now in baseball. People getting called up, emotional. You love to see the emotional stories. Guys getting the call. They finally made it to the bigs, to the show. Other than that, though, boring stuff. Nothing thrilling. Then we got soccer. We got soccer going. Now, soccer, I pay the least amount of attention to, but keep up on it. It's been some interesting stuff happening in soccer. You know, they fight a lot on the field. There's a lot of fighting in soccer, but there's almost too much. It's like, I was like watching because there was one thing I was looking at. I was like, his teams in I think it was somewhere South America, big brawl. Cops ran onto the fields, like separating. It got like that intense. But I feel like 5 times a week I see a soccer brawl. They're always brawling. They're constantly brawling in soccer. I feel like it means less. We got football training camp. Good drama there. There's good drama going on there. If you are somebody who doesn't watch sports, but you want to like try to, Hard Knocks on HBO Max does a really good job. They're covering the Detroit Lions this year. It's just interesting. So we got some good football stuff starting, but it's going to get better. Football's about to get really good. About to get the real good stuff. Basketball, nothing happening. Hockey, only thing happening in hockey is players having to get out of Russia. A lot of the NHL is Russian, and Putin said that he was like, if you're not in Russia right now, if you're not serving for Russia, you're like a traitor. That was one of his stances. So there's a lot of players. There's one goalie who went over there to see his family and then was like arrested. And they were like, no, you have to serve. He's now serving in their army. He's supposed to be in the NHL. He's just now in their army. Seems like a bummer. I feel like I'd be pretty bummed out if that was me. There's not as much. We tend to start with the sports questions, sports stuff like that. We don't have that this week. So instead, I vote let's get right into the episode. I vote we get right into what's going on here. Let's hit the theme song and let's go.
You're a number one fan, so you know the stats. Heard all the pundits talking, so you know enough of that. Maybe it's time to hear some crazy folks chat about all the other stuff that's behind the net. But maybe you don't care about playing ball and you want to hear the gossip whether big or small. Maybe it's time to hear some funny folks talk about what goes on when the batter don't walk. Maybe you'd like to hear a little more. Maybe you don't even care about sports. Either way, go on and buckle up your shorts. Cause this is everything but the scores with Danny Jolles. Yeah, doggity.
And welcome back to that show. Welcome back. Let's go. Before I get into our first story, I realized I said a story that was quite interesting and then promptly had no information for you. So let me tell you about it. The guy's name is Ivan Fedotov, who is a 25-year-old goalie prospect who was supposed to be competing in the Philadelphia Flyer system for a job. He was the Russia's starting goalie in the Beijing Olympics, and he was supposed to come back to the USA. He was in Russia to see his family. He was supposed to come back to begin his work to hope to make the team. And his agent now says that he is in a remote base and he ain't coming back. He was picked up by law enforcement, his Russian law enforcement, and he was suspected of evading compulsory military service. So that is a bummer for him. But we don't do sad stories here. We like to do happy stories here. And our first story is a story of just incredible overcoming. Like just an impressive human, because we're watching preseason football, and that's, I'll save you, those of you that don't watch sports, and those of you that do watch sports, don't watch preseason football. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your life to watch preseason football. You're watching, unless you know somebody on the team competing. It's the same thing I feel about spring training. Like when I have somebody I like know, or somebody who follows me on social media who's like competing for a job, it's like, oh, I have an invested interest. Like maybe I'll watch. But man, if you're just sitting around watching games that don't matter, I love sports as much as anyone, and even I can't get there. You gotta love sports to be watching preseason football. So I'm not watching preseason football, but what I was watching was I found myself looking at the stats, and it was exciting because 35-year-old journeyman quarterback named Josh Johnson had a really good game. Yeah, went for 11 for 17 as a quarterback, 11 for 17, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns, which is obviously something that happens on the field, which we don't talk about here. But what is interesting is that this 36-year-old journeyman, this is his 15th NFL team in his career, 17th pro team of his career. What a nightmare. Do you know how much, do you know how hard that is? Do you know how many teams that is? That's such a, you got to factor in. So here you go. Let's do it quickly. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2008, 2011. Then 2012, he's with the San Francisco 49ers. So that's across the country. Remember, each one of these involves a full move. You know, you got to move your entire family, entire life. So he gets drafted by Tampa Bay 2008, 2011. So that's 2000, so that's 3 years, maybe 4. So maybe he sets down, buys a house, feeling pretty good. He's made millions now. So he thinks to himself, oh, I'm good. Buy myself a house. I'm living life. Then he goes to 49ers. That's across the country move. Woof. Okay. It's a little, we've gone from Tampa Bay politics to San Francisco. Now he's in San Francisco, but hey, listen, he's enjoying it. Then 2012, he obviously gets cut by that team, I believe. So he goes to play for the Mountain Lions of the UFL. What's the UFL? Don't know. It's not around anymore. I'm going to assume it was the United Football League. I don't know. USFL, I know. I don't even know what that is. But either way, so that means he's cut from San Francisco. So he moves. All right, I go to Tampa Bay, now to San Francisco. Cut. Oh, no. Even if he didn't buy a place, probably leased a place, let go of that lease. Now you're in trouble. You just sank money into something you're not even going to live in. So you got to go play for the Mountain Lions. We don't even know where that is. That could be anywhere in the world. But in 2012, he also then, wherever he's playing in the UFL, he then gets picked up by the Cleveland Browns. That's where he ends 2012. So then he goes from wherever that was to Cleveland. At this point, he's got to be a little suspicious that he shouldn't buy. If there's ever been a guy who shouldn't buy, it's Josh Johnson, the quarterback. There is a man. That is a man. And I encourage anybody, if they have a little money, to buy. I'm a very big believer in the real estate market. And that is, to me, the safest thing you can buy. Josh Johnson, don't you buy. You need to be ready to move. He goes to Cleveland. Tough place to live. But he goes to Cleveland. He finishes the 2012 season there. 2013, he goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. Cleveland and Cincinnati, not a super big trip, but that's stressful. Again, that's a family without a home. That is a family that he's got to learn. Also, keep in mind, every one of these moves involves learning a new playbook, new job, new place. Now, he spends all of 2013 with the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's go. Way to go. He might even buy. He might at some point during the guy, I'll buy. If nothing else, doesn't have to break a lease. Good job. Gets to know the city of Cincinnati. But he doesn't spend 2014 with Cincinnati. He switches again. He goes back to San Francisco with the 49ers. So now we're returning to San Francisco. So maybe that lease from 2012 doesn't fully, he might have been paying for the whole time. Now he goes back. Boom. Good news. Actually got a place to go. He's back to San Francisco. Maybe he says to himself, now I'm home. Now I'm home because he spends all of 2014 there. He gets himself nice and situated. There you go. Get to know the city of San Francisco. Go ahead. It's hilly. I have no clue how anybody has a car in San Francisco. I have no clue how anybody has a car in San Francisco. The suspension damage you're doing to your car in San Francisco. I drive up there all the time rather than fly because it's cheaper. And it's like it's 6 hours from LA. So it's just close enough where I feel like it's a doable drive. Just long enough where you want to absolutely kill yourself by the end. Either way, he lives in San Francisco. Absolutely destroys his car with suspension. 2014 season ends. He does not stay in San Francisco. He starts 2015 back to Cincinnati. The Bengals. So maybe that place from 2013 that he gets back in there. But that doesn't last long because in 2015, he then goes from Cincinnati, so moves his family to Cincinnati. Okay, we're going to Cincinnati again. Maybe he's got kids. You go, oh, remember Jeannie? We can now see Jeannie again. Like, you're trying to do that spin. He goes from then, 2015, he goes from the Cincinnati Bengals to the New York Jets. That is a massive jump. You just went from Cincinnati to New York City. Woof. Good luck finding an apartment in New York City, Josh Johnson, in 2015. 2015, he goes to New York Jets. Okay. Got to figure that one out. Maybe he has to figure out how to get an apartment for his whole family. Good Lord. Again, learning a new playbook, whole thing. Guess what? He's not done because in 2015, he then goes to the Indianapolis Colts. So he's in one season gone Cincinnati, New York, now Indianapolis. That's a full family move back. That's kind of close. I wish I knew a map. I wish I had a map. I feel like Indianapolis and Cincinnati are within the same area. So maybe he's kind of going there, but he doesn't even stop there because then guess what? He goes from Indianapolis to Buffalo. He finishes 2015 on the Buffalo Bills. So then he's gone. So that 1 year he's gone Cincinnati, New York, Indianapolis, Buffalo. Buffalo, tough place. I mean, he's moving Buffalo end of the season. He's moving to Buffalo in the cold winter Buffalo. Ha ha ha. Happy way to spend the year, isn't it? Yeah, you're just going to live in Buffalo during the winter. Do you know how many different types of outfits he must have based on all these climates he's had to go to? Up until now, up until Buffalo, what did he do? He went Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Cleveland, and Cincinnati. Maybe he got a little winter weather, but he ain't yet experienced a Buffalo weather, a Buffalo winter, a Buffalo, New York winter. He's buying a whole new wardrobe. That's where he finishes 2015. 2016 comes around. You would think any of these teams that he just played for would want him. You would think Buffalo, Indianapolis. Nope. He starts with a new team. 2016, he starts with the Baltimore Ravens. Near me. Maybe moves his family. At this point, he's got to be suspicious. He's got to be like, nobody move anywhere with me. He goes to Baltimore, gets into the crabs, maybe, though. This is where I'm from, so I'll tell you right now, they got great crabs. That's fine. He can live with that. You can live with that. So he goes to Baltimore, Maryland to play with the Ravens. 2016, he doesn't finish the year there. He then goes up to New York Giants. Different team, same New York City. Got to figure out how to live in New York City. I don't even know how you do that. Good Lord. How are you going to do that? How are you going to do it for the New? So he goes to New York City. He finishes the year there. So he goes New York City. All right. So maybe for the love of God, I'm up here in New York City. You know, it's a new team. It's another new team, but at least it's a team that he's gotten to know. You know, he knows the city at least. So, okay, finishes 2016. Maybe even sets roots in New York. Between the Jets and Giants, he's got two teams that know him there. He's got to be safe. 2017 spends with the Houston Texans. Where the fuck did they come from? They haven't showed up once in our little thing. Houston, Texas. He spends the whole year down there. At this point, you've got to be exhausted. At this point, he's setting records. I mean, I have to imagine. Houston, 2017. 2018 comes around. He doesn't play for Houston. He doesn't play for the Giants. Doesn't play another new team. Now he goes to the Oakland Raiders. Woof. Now, the good news is that San Francisco house from 2012 and 2014, guess what? That's close enough to Oakland. I think you can make it work. He spent some time with Oakland, but then he doesn't finish the year there because guess who he goes to play for? This is out of order because I'll tell you where he goes. He goes to the AAF, plays for the Fleet in the American Alliance of Football. He goes to play for them, which means he's obviously covering Raiders. It means now he's making way less money, financially secure. But guess what? He gets picked up by the Washington Commanders. They weren't named that at the time, but I'm able to self-edit. He goes to play for us. I remember when he came to play for my team. Washington, D.C., he now moves to. Welcome to Washington. He's been in Baltimore, so he kind of knows the area. But D.C., you got yourself some museums, you know. That's fun. 2018 ends. Okay. Thank God it's over. He can relax. Well, no, he can't. Because 2019, he doesn't get picked up by the Commanders. He doesn't get picked up by the Raiders or the Texans or the Giants. He joins a new team, the Detroit Lions. Now he's in Detroit. Woof. 2020 comes around. Oh, and I know how this story is going to go. 2020 comes around. And he's got himself an XFL job playing for the Wildcats. Where's that based? Not a clue. But okay, moves the family again, go play for the XFL. Well, guess what happens in 2020? And I know it happened mid XFL season. That's when COVID hit. So that season comes to an end. 2020 season comes along. Now, 2020 was a great year to be a known NFL player around because remember, COVID caused players to get pulled constantly. They had to constantly be taken out of games, constantly put in games, so, because they could constantly go code protocol. So there was a job that existed on every NFL team. There was basically a quarterback who sat at home separate from the team in case, but knew the playbook in case every quarterback got COVID. Because remember, if one quarterback got COVID and they were in a room with all the other quarterbacks, all that entire quarterback room could potentially be disqualified from the game. So this was a job. So in 2020, guess what? He's back in the NFL and he's back at San Francisco. This is now his third stint at San Francisco, but that house he got in San Francisco is looking okay. The house he got in Tampa Bay, he has not been to since, which is a bummer. But he goes to play for San Francisco in 2020. He starts the 2021 season with San Francisco, and he thinks to himself, I have to imagine, finally, I have myself a place. Playing 2 seasons consecutively with a team, this hasn't happened for him in quite some time. This hasn't happened for him, I'll tell you right now, since his first season. That's the first season that he played a year and then another year with the same team. So he starts 2021 with San Francisco. His suspension of his car is getting killed. But at this point, I think he's got to make enough money where he's got a good car. He's probably got a Tesla, but that Tesla ain't made for that kind of suspension. It's getting beat up. He does not finish 2021 with the San Francisco 49ers because in the middle season, he has to go across the country to the New York Jets. Back into New York City, second time with the Jets. Good Lord. He doesn't finish the season there, though, because at the end of 2021, he finishes the season with the Baltimore Ravens. He's back in Baltimore. It's this man, the amount of travel, the amount of upheaval. And you might be asking, hey, then this preseason, he has 11 for 17. He had this great game. People talked about it. This journeyman quarterback had a really great game on TV. How exciting. What team is he playing for? The Denver Broncos. That's a new one. What a career. Like, that's the kind of thing that if you aren't, that if you don't follow sports, you wouldn't know, right? You see that stat of a quarterback who threw 11 for 17 for however 100 whatever yards. And you go, all right. But the backstory of that is his 15th NFL team. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He's had 22 switches, 21 switches in his career. 21 times he's had to move. And this is only in a 13-year span. He's averaging more than one team a year. Now he's with Denver. I hope Denver keeps him on the team all year. I hope this guy plays until he's 50. And I hope that he never stops having to do this. It's awesome. What a life and what a journey for Josh Johnson. There's going to be a weird documentary made about him at some point. I can't wait for it. What a tale. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If only you knew what happened in between. It's been an hour and a half since I recorded the segment before this. In that time, wild things have occurred. But that's the excitement of this life. That's the excitement of doing a podcast while also running your full career all by yourself. That's the excitement. Were the calls good? Yeah, they were. Some interesting stuff coming in. Interesting stuff moving. Interesting things happening. Am I exhausted? Yes. I've never been more tired in my life. But I'm okay. We're going to be okay. I got one final story for you. Then I do have to go because I have to do this. But let me tell you one more story that I think you're really gonna kick at it because what you might have seen was on this past weekend a Colorado Rockies player by the name of Winton Bernard got himself a single, stolen base, and scored a run. which is whatever. It's not it's not like a that's not an incredible story, you know what I mean? Whatever. That's a fine day in baseball. Again, that's the kind of thing you see on the field and you're like, who cares? Who cares? Why would that be a tale? Why would it be a tale that some guy was able to do it? Why wouldn't you be telling the story of a Mets player who just handed another player lotto tickets in the middle of the game for no apparent reason, which did happen this week, by the way. Pete Alonso just handed somebody lottery tickets in the middle of the game. No, we have not yet heard explanations to why he did that. Winston Bernard is 31 years old, and that was his MLB debut. So I guess I could tell you that him scoring that run, that stolen base, that hit, that was all his first, because it was his first time in the majors. What you don't know is that this guy spent 10 seasons in the minors. Minor league baseball is the worst. We talked about Josh Johnson before this. Josh Johnson is at least playing for NFL teams. His nightmare journey was a nightmare journey, but he's being paid well. Say what you will about him. He's getting paid good. Josh Johnson's made himself a living. Winston Bernard has made no money. He was a 35th round pick in 2012. He has played every type of minor league baseball. He has played in Australia. He has played in Venezuela. He's been a part of 5 organizations, 11 different clubs, 11 seasons, all the way moving his way up to AAA. And then he gets the fine after 10 seasons, after that much work, that he finally gets to play in the majors. And somebody just happened to get footage of the call where he tells his mom. It is hands down one of the sweetest things and most beautiful things I've ever heard. Here that is.
Mom, I'm going to the major leagues. I'm going, Mama. I'm going, Mom. I promise. I promise, Mom. I'm going.
How do you not love sports? How do you not love that? How does that not get you going? I understand TV is good, but that's a real person showing real emotion like that. That's awesome. I love that moment. I want to share it. I think that right there is what everything but the scores is all about. It's about perseverance. It's about a guy. It's about a boring play that had so much more to it if you knew the story. That's what this podcast is built on. Moments like that. I don't like talking about stand-up comedy on this podcast. I like talking about moments like that. And yeah, it applies to stand-up. I definitely feel I've been up and down from the minors and majors in my career a bunch. I've been in the majors. I've had some minor league moments. I do it weekly. Doing a show at a minor league baseball park next week. I can tell you all about it. That's real. Eugene, Oregon, minor league baseball parks, where I'm doing my show. Should be actually a really awesome show. I'm pretty excited about it. But the point is, I get it. And I see that moment. It's cool. It's a cool thing. I had this, and then we're going to wrap up the podcast, but I had this Uber driver in Canada. It's like everybody's journey. I'm just thinking about journeys, stories behind them. I get this Uber in Vancouver. I was doing a gig up there. It was not a good gig. Tough gig up in Vancouver. Corporate, tough. Not fun. The kind of gig that you leave and you're like, I made the money. I got paid good money, but woof, that was tough. And I get in this Uber on the way to the airport, and getting in and out of Canada in a 24-hour period is, I don't know if you can imagine, it's a nightmare right now with COVID. So you have to sign all these things. You got to do that. It's just tough. And so I do all this stuff, and I'm just exhausted, man. Like, just so tired. And I'm like, I get in this Uber, it's early. I'm like still checking my like COVID test and like all this shit. And I also am gonna have to get into the country, which is a whole process. And so I'm driving, so leave early, and this Uber driver's like, he's like, how you doing? I was like, oh, fine. He's like, why fine? I was like, man, I mean, I gonna have to get in and out of the country. I'm gonna have to get into America again. I got my passport, but it's a wait, and it's just a long wait, get in and out. And he was like, "Oh yeah," and he sort of got quiet. And he's like, oh, and before this, he had an African accent, and growing up, I my family was friends with one person from Zimbabwe and one person from Ghana. So I know a lot about their cultures. And so I just sort of was like, I asked where he was from, and he was from not those places. He was somewhere in Africa, which I wish I remembered because it would make the story better. But I don't remember. I want to say Somalia, maybe. But he was like, well, I'll tell you about waiting to get into a country. He's like, when I was in Somalia, there was a political upheaval, and so they were killing people, and I wanted to get out, but I wanted to do it legally. I didn't know how. And so he's like, there's one place that you go to. He just starts telling me the story. He goes, like, there's one place I go to that you go to get into this country. And you have to get this one guy, basically, this one guy decides who gets a green card. And so there's just this massive line outside every single day. And he's like, and every day I stand out there for 6 months. And I was like, 6 months? It's 6 months. Every single day I just wait out there to get an appointment with him. This is just to get an appointment with him. And he goes, I wait 6 months. And after 6 months, I finally get an appointment, which is 6 months from then. So now it's a full year from when he first started waiting to just seeing the person. And he's like, and I put together, he's like, I worked so hard on this thing, why I needed to leave, what I could bring, etc. And he goes, and I go in there, and it's 2 minutes, and I get rejected hours later. They tell me not any. And he goes, but I knew I had a friend who'd gotten it, but he had money. And he was like, I knew that you needed money. It wasn't a fair system. And I didn't realize that. And I was like, so what'd you do? He goes, so in my time waiting there, I realized that the guy who makes the decision, his car comes in through the back. And while the place is swarmed, by the afternoon it's not as swarmed because they don't take new people in. And he's like, and so I noticed he would drive in and out of this back entrance every day for lunch. He goes, so I wore this orange shirt and I stood outside that entranceway every day for 6 months, just wearing an orange shirt. He's like, because I wanted him to remember me. And finally, after 6 months, the guy's like, what do you want? He like stops his car and he's like, what is your deal? He's like, why are you here? Like with this orange shirt. And he is like, I really want, and he told him his story. He's like, and that's how I got my green card. And it shut me the fuck up. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I'll just like take my passport and wait in the line. It was just such a cool story. You don't know people's journeys, places you just don't know about. Like that guy, that was just such an incredible journey. And Wynton Bernard hitting that single, a whatever single in the middle of a baseball game in August, meant so much more. You just don't know people's journeys. That's why I love sports. It reminds you that. All right, let's wrap the show up. Hey, that was the show. I got to tell you, I forget how much fun it is just being solo. I feel like it adds something, you know? Where can you see me? Well, if you want to see me, I'll be in Madison, Wisconsin this weekend with Taylor Tomlinson. The weekend after that, I'll be in Eugene, Oregon on Thursday, August 25th, doing my show up there. And then, yeah, it's my big one. Oh, and September 17th, I'm part of this jazz festival in Telluride. If you're in Telluride, there's an awesome jazz festival there, and they're bringing me out there too. They have a couple comics. They're all really good comics. It should be dope. I'm like really pumped about it. Let's come to that. And just keep listening to podcasts, keep supporting it, keep doing those things. I don't say it enough because when I get a guest here, because I'm always trying to impress them. But it really means a lot, those of you that listen. It means a lot when you share it, you know, send me stories. Like that stuff matters to me. It really does. I think of everything I do, it's probably like the least successful thing I do is this podcast. But I really love doing it, and I think it's worth it. So I really appreciate you listening. Hit the theme song. See you next week.
You're a #1 fan, so you know the stats. Heard all the pundits talking, so you know enough of that. Maybe it's time to hear some crazy folks chat about all the other stuff that's behind the net. But maybe you don't care about playing ball, and you want to hear the gossip whether big or small. Maybe it's time to hear some funny folks talk about what goes on when the batter don't walk. Maybe you'd like to hear a little more. Maybe you don't even care about sports. Either way, go on and buckle up your shorts. Cause this is everything but the scores with Danny Jolles. Yeah, doggity.